Welcome to Penalty Box Radio, presented by Goldstone Financial Group. Goldstone Financial Group is an experienced team of professionals who will help ensure you receive distinguished service with a plan tailored to your retirement goals. I'm your host, Sean Smith. Joining me tonight is the Ice Insider, Anthony Pellegrino, my regular co-host, Ann Kimmel, also of Penalty Box Radio, was on a special assignment tonight. Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, it's one of those situations where you make all the best plans you can, but what happens to the best laid plans of mice and men? They're often torn asunder. So here we are at the beginning of the show. We had everything nice and planned out, fun, nice things to talk about. And then 15 minutes before we go on the air, word comes across the X, formerly known as Twitter, that there are some changes in Nashville, which we were not necessarily not anticipating, but it's going to impact our show. So we'll probably be talking about that a little bit more at the beginning of the show than one would assume, because it's very new, it's very fresh. But what I'd really like to do before we get into it, and it's funny because we always start with the puck drop topic, and of course the question this week, I'll just spoiler alert for everybody, is should the Preds make any more moves before the deadline? And well, obviously they have.
That's right. And I think, like I was telling you earlier today, I thought that something unpredictable was going to happen. And of course, we get here and something did happen, which we will get into later. But, we had the Nyquist trade earlier this week.
Right.
And my kind of spin on it would be make another trade, which, I got to be careful what I say here, but going into Friday, I say make a push for an offensive player like Gabe Vilardi from Winnipeg or Ryan Donato, maybe from Chicago.
Okay.
And this is more so a culture thing, I think.
Okay.
I've watched both players now enough to say that their offensive skill, yes, it's a bonus to the team, but it's more of a bonus that you have these players having the years they're having, almost point per game pace this season, due to the hustle that we've seen out of them. So I think that's something that the Predators could use a little bit more of.
Well, the hustle match is what they need.
That's right.
I think.
That's right.
And I think, we might as well go ahead and talk about it. There's no reason. I mean, we could mention more about the Nyquist trade if we want, but the news that came across to us was that Luke Schenn and Tommy Novak are headed to Pittsburgh and the Penguins in exchange for Michael Bunting and what appears to be, although it's not set in stone, I don't believe at this time, a 4th-round pick in next year's draft.
Well, we could also mark this Pittsburgh Penguins team as like a junior Predators team at this point, right? Because
collecting a lot of them, aren't they?
That's right. Because who do we have now? Who did they have? Philip Tomasino.
Cody Glass. Yep. They've got now Luke Schenn.
Tommy Novak.
Anthony Beauvillier.
They could start an entire line off of former Predators players that have played even just since last season.
Yeah, that's are they is Pittsburgh the new Minnesota? That's the question you've got to ask.
I mean, I guess we'll see if I think one more trade solidifies that. We'll see here before Friday, I say.
If you want to see some of your old favorite Predators, you can catch a Minnesota Wild game or now a Pittsburgh Penguins game.
That's
You're
right.
going to see at least 5 on both teams. Should be pretty exciting. Yeah. Well, I want to say this because you mentioned these other guys that you would be interested in seeing come to Nashville. And you mentioned hustle, but I was, doing my very cursory research after I heard the news, and I wanted to kind of see what was out there on Bunting. And his name was popped into my head very quickly, and I knew there was something. And of course I found, that he recently had his appendix removed and has been placed on injured reserve. But when I found that news, I also found where head coach Mike Sullivan was talking about him. And this is what he said. I think this is really interesting. If you're out there wondering what kind of player the Predators are getting, if you're not familiar with Michael Bunting, here's what his now former coach had to say. He says, he makes it hard on our opponents in a number of different ways. He also has an uncanny ability to irritate people out there. That helps the group. When you have players like that, I think it drags us into the fight, and that's an important aspect of becoming a team and making sure that we're invested emotionally into the game. He's one of those guys.
And let me add that Luke Schenn especially was a big locker room presence, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the harder parts of getting rid of Shen would be this void in the locker room, right?
Correct.
And obviously now we still have this void on defense without Shen. So my thing is now, like, even without Yossi, we're seeing Blankenberg and these guys need to step up on the defensive end. But now you're getting in Bunting a player to fill that void that Shen's going to leave. And then you're going to have sort of, a new locker room key presence, like you just said. So I'm excited.
I'm
right?
excited too. I'm not. I mean, here I'll say this. Let me, as someone who has defended Luke Shin for a very long time, I'll admit, sad to see him go for a variety of reasons. Great guy to talk to in the locker room. Great veteran presence in the locker room. I mean, absolutely a menace. If you want to fight somebody, that's your guy, and he will deliver a sound and solid beating quickly.
That's right.
If you need a heavyweight, title bout, that's your dude right there. Sad to see him go. Also, big Tommy Novak guy. We always tried to have a segment on the show called Tommy Time, the time where we talk about Tommy Novak, only to find that now, if we're going to talk about Tommy Novak, it'll be talking about him playing for a different team, which this show's not really about that team. So we probably won't have Tommy Time anymore. But it seems like, you're getting a player who's, I would say, a little more established than Novak. Numbers are fairly similar, although it seems like Bunting produces a lot more points, not necessarily goals. They're about even on goals, but points wise, he's got quite a few more. So maybe they're looking at him as someone that can contribute to scoring more often than Novak did. But I think the biggest thing you've got going on here is, how does this impact salary cap? And of course, Emma Lingen pointed out very quickly that this actually saves the Predators money because they're shipping out Shin's contract and Novak's contract and only taking on Bunting's $4.5 million, which, what did she say it saved? Again, this is live, folks. This is live.
And can I also, while you're finding that, I want to add that, so last season, Bunting was traded to Pittsburgh and from Carolina, and he had 36 points in 60 games with Carolina. And so this was right up to the trade deadline.
Right.
He gets traded to Pittsburgh and has 19 points in 21 games. So, if he were to repeat this pattern, could we see a point per game pace out of him, the last 20 games with a new team? Maybe he repeats the pattern that he did last season.
And that would be great. And I'll say that I found it. So look, Bunting's contract, $4.5 million. That's, of course, the rest of this season and next season. Tommy Novak's was $3.5 million this and the next 2 seasons. Luke Shin, $2.75 this season. And I think one more, I may be wrong. But that means they're going to save $1.75 million in cap space in the immediate term. That's, again, from Emma Lingen. Very good reporting there. And I'll say that you want that. You want space cleared if you want to have the freedom and the ability to make some moves in the offseason. And I'll say, too, getting rid of 2 guys, only bringing 1 back in, that frees up a roster spot where you can bring someone up from Milwaukee, which I would be willing to bet is something they're going to start looking to do. But that's also something we planned on talking about a little bit later. So I don't know if that's the fullest breakdown you can get on this trade or not, but based on what's out there right now, I think that's pretty solid. Anthony, what do you think?
I think so too. And maybe we can touch just a second on the Nyquist trade.
Okay.
I wanted to give credit to Barry Trotz because Nyquist's contract expires at the end of this season,
Right.
and he's going to be 36 next year. So, the chances that he returns or even fits into the future of
Right.
this lineup, right, is very low. And so my thought process was that on July 1st, he goes free agency somewhere else for the remainder of his career. But instead, he's off to Minnesota.
Right.
And
the other former Preds team.
Right. For 20 or so games.
Yep.
And in return, the Predators get almost, I don't want to say free because they gave up Nyquist for the
Right.
rest of the season, but they got a 2nd-round pick. And for the cards dealt, that's as
Right.
good as you can get.
And I'll say I'm not upset about this trade at all. I think I'm actually surprised that so many fans were upset about it. Like you said, he's 36 next season. He's got an expiring contract. 2nd-round pick, quite a bit higher than I thought they'd be able to get. I was thinking at best third, maybe fourth. So
Yeah.
second round pick, solid, great return. Not upset about it at all. Really quickly before we go into the commercial break, really quickly, anybody else you think may be dealt over the next the next day and a half, I guess.
Well, those were my two top picks right there was Shen and Novak, but
Okay.
Mike McCarron, I've heard a little bit out there about McCarron going. We're gonna see what happens.
I could see them moving him. I don't know what they'd be able to get, but
That's right.
this is a seller's market. It's kind of been established that this is a seller's market. This is a good market for the teams that are willing to get rid of players. They're being rewarded a little more handily. So that might be a good plan. See what you can get for McCarron. But that's all part of the Preds planning for their future. But planning for your future doesn't have to be complicated. At Goldstone Financial Group, they help you create a personalized financial plan to secure your retirement. Whether you're thinking about your 401k, IRA, or just want to invest smart, they've got you covered. Just like the Nashville Predators strategize for every game or for the next season, Goldstone Financial strategizes for your financial success. Visit goldstonefinancialgroup.com today and start planning for tomorrow. If you're looking for a great place to catch a Preds game, I'd send you to Beyond the Edge in East Nashville, but you don't have to just take my word for it. Beyond the Edge has been voted the best sports bar for the second year in a row in the Scene Nashville Readers Poll. With more than 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap, you'll never miss any of the action. They've got great food, great drinks, and the perfect spot to watch the game. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville or online at beyondtheedge.net. Make Beyond the Edge your go-to for every big game. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio. Looking for your next night out? Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has something for everyone. Whether you're into bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, or their newly expanded arcade, the fun never stops. Plus, their full menu and bar make it the perfect spot for group events and birthday parties. Oh, and it's also a great place to catch the Predators game while you're there. Check them out at starsandstrikes.com. Green Ventures Landscaping transforms your outdoor dream into reality. Their family-owned team specializes in patio design, pool decks, retaining walls, and more. They create stunning landscapes that last with personalized service and expert craftsmanship. From irrigation to maintenance, they'll ensure your garden thrives, providing a space that's both functional and beautiful. Visit them at greenventureslandscaping.com today for a free quote. Let Green Ventures Landscaping cultivate your perfect outdoor sanctuary today. Okay, we're back. We are back. We're going to talk defense. I think we've covered enough of the trade. I think we can leave that.
That's right.
We still got time before. I mean, unless something happens here in the next.
Never say never, right? Never say never on trade deadline week.
Stranger things have happened. Never count it out. But we've got 43 minutes. We're planning on nothing else happening that we need to mention. So
we can only hope.
We can only hope. We're going to talk about the defense. I want to start by talking about this Josi injury. Not a good situation. Ugly hit from behind. Bad position, what do you think about that? What do you want to say?
Listen, it just fits the trajectory of this season. I feel like, to have your captain and the leader of the defensive core in Roman Josi, now injured, ruled out, what could be for the rest of the season. Right. It fits how the season has gone. And, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't say that it is the season that they've had.
Right.
Keeps getting worse. But then again, let's look at the positive side of this. Right?
Okay.
There is not a positive side. Let me rephrase that. The optimistic,
I know what you meant.
The optimistic lens.
There
right?
is a silver lining to every situation. And how if Josi is out, is there something good that can come of him not playing right now?
That's right. And the positive outlook of this situation with Josi out, I would say, is it gives the younger guys in the defensive core like Nick Blankenberg, Mark Delgado, Englund, and so on a chance to step up and find their role to another extent with Josi out, right? You have the leader of all leaders, not only in the room, but amongst the defensive core now out. And you say, we need to step up. So that was something. But now you have almost your second in command in Luke Schenn sent off to Pittsburgh. Now we're really going to see, maybe we see another filler defenseman come in a trade, who knows, or if Barry Trotz is going to stick with this group and has faith that they can grow into leadership roles and step up the next 20 or so games. We're going to see some exciting play from the defensive core, I guess we call them, right?
Yeah. Well, they're working on being a core.
That's right.
I want to point out too, in the aftermath of this, the response from the Preds on the ice, and I think a lot of people wanted swift justice on the ice, but it took a little bit of time. It came later, not immediately, but it came later in the game. Cole Smith got a hold of whoever, I don't remember who hit him. It's been a few games since then, in a net front scrum, and just delivered what I would consider to be a fine beating, just a solid beating. It felt to me like justice was served. Now, I'm surprised there was no supplemental discipline. And of course, a beating on the ice doesn't fix a week-to-week upper body injury, but and there's a lot of speculation that it's a concussion, but I do want to remind everyone that that's typically not a card the Predators will play. They're going to call it an upper body injury regardless, but there's no confirmation one way or the other. So, you talked about guys stepping up, right? I think it's important to see what those guys have. Defense has been a major concern this season, I think, and you can see there's already some changes being made. You're going to have to shore that up before next season. And if you don't shore it up before next season, you're just signing up for another year of what you've seen.
And you're going to sign up for another year of long nights for UC Saros and Justus Annunen.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want to overtax your goaltenders. That they don't deserve it, number one. But number two, both of these guys are solid goaltenders. As long as they get solid defense in front of them, they're going to do well.
And they're seeing, a number of shots that you won't really see on another team, unless you're rebuilding, perhaps, right?
Sure.
But, like the Blackhawks the other night, Spencer Knight goes in and has, I think it was like 43 shots. And, it's something that, like, that's a good example. These rebuild teams, the goaltenders will have to face, another level of shots. But if they can get that under control in the offseason, whether that's adding another, veteran defenseman that can block shots, or just get to the root cause of why are we allowing 35 shots on a nightly basis, then next season becomes not easier, but you're going to face less shots for Saros and Annunen, and that's exactly what you want to sort of climb out of the situation that the team's in.
And less quality shots too,
Yeah.
less expected goals, as the calculator crew likes to say. If you're seeing a lot of things that should be goals, right? Then chances are you're not going to stop all of them. But if you're getting those chances limited, those quality chances, that score is not going to be as lopsided it's been. They're not going to be playing so much catch up every night, and that's taxing on a defense and an offense as well. So I think the biggest thing for me is I want to see, and I know there's guys on the roster right now that we want to see, but I want to see some guys that are typically playing in Milwaukee coming up and playing. I think you have a lot in that pipeline you can bring in that's going to be successful. I want to see Molendijk. I want to see Livingstone. I want to see more Del Gaizo. I want to see what these guys have. And you're probably not going to see Molendijk this season, but I feel like there's a chance he could come up and play. And well, okay, let's talk about the game last night. All right. You had Shea paired with Blankenberg on the first pairing. Del Gaizo paired with Shin, who's now gone, and England paired with Stastny, Barron sitting.
And do you see what I mean? How now, okay, we look at the pairs already,
Right.
and you have the second line, right side now up for grabs. So it gives maybe Stastny a chance to get up there, right, tomorrow night and play in front of the home crowd and really just get this extra gear out of him, maybe.
Yeah.
Because Josi, I'm not sure what the latest is on him, but for right now,
week to week with an upper body injury. I'm telling you, that's all you're getting.
Yeah. So now you have at least this week to week basis of we need someone to come in on the second spot and fill this void for Shen, right?
Correct.
As they're collectively filling a role for a void for Josi.
Right.
But then now we're going to have someone come in on the third pair. So yes, I think last night, for what it was worth, they gave up, I think, 21 shots it was. And I believe so, against Boston, right?
I wasn't counting shots. I was only counting those sweet, sweet goals.
I don't blame you. That was a rare occurrence to see.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're seeing a look at this is how we're going to set this defense up moving forward. I think you see Stastny move up. I'm assuming Barron comes back in, which, I mean, I think I would say he'd go on the third pairing with England. Again, they'd been line mates before. But Stastny out there is a big deal. I can see him being on the roster to start the season next year. And I think if you're looking to get the guys going that you think will be a part of the team moving forward, it's good for them to get some experience, build some mojo, some chemistry with a partner. And that looked like a great start to me. I don't know what the plan is for England necessarily. He was picked up off of waivers, or for Barron because he came over in that trade for Carrier. But I'm surprised he wasn't playing if they see him as someone who's going to be on the roster next season. So I'd keep an eye on how these guys are deployed over the next few games. But I want to talk about before we have to go back out. I do want to talk about Andreas England. He had that fight with Matt Rempe after Rempe elbowed Blankenberg. I mean, I think England did the thing that's going to endear him to the Preds fans. There's always a guy that comes in kind of out of nowhere, and in a moment like that, standing up for a teammate, just everybody decides like, oh, we love this guy. He's going to be one that people aren't going to want to let go now because of that. But I'm not sure, and I don't want to get into this whole like let's talk about Matt Rempe thing, but I'm not sure how that was only a minor.
I'm not really sure either, Sean.
I've had my 10-year-old get bigger calls for much less, and I mean, if we want, we can. He happens to be here right now, so with us, joining us briefly is 10-year-old left defender for the Music City Marauders, Kalen Smith. Kalen, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to have you joining us tonight. You're 10 years old. I mean, can you elbow people?
No, I mean I just got kicked out of a game, but
Well, we don't have
That's
to.
bold.
We don't have to get to that. But you know better, right?
yeah,
So you never do it.
I mean,
All right, we got to cut his
Cut
mic.
the mic.
Cut his
Cut the
mic. All right.
mic.
All right. Thanks for joining us, young man. Make better choices on the ice. But I think, look, I had to listen to the Rangers broadcast of that, and they were saying that even the fact that he got called for elbowing was BS, which I think is hilarious because they're saying, oh, he's a big guy. His arm's up higher. He can't help it. When are they going to stop making excuses for this guy? Like, I don't get it.
Listen, I like physicality in hockey
Sure, I do
to
too.
an extent, right? Once you're starting to see Rempe's name come up over and over, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying let's kick the guy out of the league,
No.
but some of these hits have to be toned down a little bit.
And again, you learn this stuff early.
That's right.
You learn this stuff. You learn it at 10 years old. You're getting tossed out of games for this. It's a thing that you've got to correct before you get to the NHL. When we come back, we're going to talk about the offense. But as Preds fans, we know the importance of playing both offense and defense. At Goldstone Financial Group, they apply that same mindset to your retirement. They're not just about growing your assets, but also protecting them. With decades of experience, they can help you build a strategy that secures your financial future. Head to goldstonefinancialgroup.com to learn more and get your game plan in place. Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio on 102.5 The Game. Stars and Strikes in Smyrna has everything you need for a fun-filled outing. Bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, and their huge new arcade with a full menu and bar. It's also the perfect place to host birthday parties or group events. And if you're a Preds fan, you can catch the game while enjoying great food and drinks. Visit starsandstrikes.com and start planning your next adventure. Okay, we are back. Very exciting. Game last night. Predators versus the Bruins
Was
we
also very exciting. Sorry about that.
It was. I think you kind of become accustomed to seeing a couple of losses in a row and then getting expectations are low. We're not looking forward to things, but
Can I say that a win sometimes feels like a Stanley Cup win?
just a regular season
in
win.
a season like this.
Well, it's funny. I think I'd posted the win post on Instagram, and someone said, was it really a huge win? And it's funny because I felt like it.
Yes,
It felt like a huge win. I mean, I wouldn't say you need to raise a banner for it, but
I was just gonna say,
I feel like that's what the team needed. I feel like that's what fans needed. I think it just to have a little bit of a breath of fresh air. And I think one of the biggest criticisms that the Predators have faced this season specifically, and maybe to an extent a few times in some previous seasons, that they have a tendency to quit when they're ahead. The other big criticism is that they don't respond well to adversity. So you kind of have a double-edged sword there, right? You get ahead, you quit, and then the other team ties it up or takes the lead, and then you just, game over. We've lost. That's the end of the road. But I think last night they never gave up. They got behind early, and they came back and tied it up immediately. In about a minute, game was tied. And then before long, they take the lead. Game gets tied up again at 2. They come back and take the lead. And when the game gets tied up again on what I'll call a defensive miscue, I think the Tennessee trap is what we like to call that. When everybody's on one side of the ice, you leave the entire other side of the ice wide open there. And the Preds responded with 2 goals in less than 4 minutes. And that looked like they could have gotten more aside from the Jankowski empty net goal. And that's a team that didn't get comfortable with the lead and responded well to adversity. And I liked what I saw. Saw a team that had heart, saw a team that had confidence.
I thought, Sean, the entire game's dictation could have gone, like you said,
Right.
The complete opposite within those first few minutes after Boston scored. And, we've seen this season, the past few seasons, to just give up. Maybe Boston gets a second, third, and now you're down 3-0 going into the second, right? But instead,
right.
And I think this is one of the reasons that they were successful was because of that one shift where they scored, right? And it was a minute after and tied up at 1. And right there, you saw a shift in the team, right? And how
major
they
response.
played, right? And that major response caused the second goal. And, so for Boston to get the early lead instead of doing what's become so familiar and letting the game slip away right there, they found this extra level and extra gear to play with. And I thought it was exciting to watch because it wasn't the predictable maybe style that we've seen this season.
Correct.
And the veterans put on a show.
Well, the veterans put on a show, and you've got to think that for the longest time, the offense on this team has been funneled and channeled through Roman Josi. Without him, everybody has to adjust. It's not just a defensive adjustment with Josi gone. It's an everybody adjustment. And it looked like those guys figured out what they needed to do. But it's funny you call it the dictation of the game. It's almost like if there was a script that games have followed this season, the script looked like it was the same old script. They just responded the way you always hope they would instead of the way they seem to have been responding the entire season, which is to back off with the lead and then get frustrated with adversity and then end up ultimately losing the game. But you talked about the veterans showing out. We had some new lines, and I'll spend some time breaking these down. I think they're definitely interesting. First line was Stamkos, O'Reilly, and Evangelista. Now, what I'll say about this is, one of the we talk about big criticisms of the team a lot tonight, but one of the big criticisms I hear a lot of the time, and I can't say that I necessarily disagree, is that when you have younger players like an Evangelista, like a Tommy Novak, like some of these other guys like Tomasino, Glass, guys that you've seen come in, show some promise, and you think, oh, can they move them up the lines? They don't. They end up playing on the third line, the fourth line, in that, kind of role where they want them to bring energy, which is not the style of those guys. You can bring energy by playing hard. You can also bring energy by scoring nasty goals and setting up sick assists, right?
Can I say, last time I was on the show, shout out to Ann, she brought up the point of like, listen, this season may be over in the sense that we're not competing for a Stanley Cup.
Right.
So why not put Evangelista with O'Reilly?
Right.
And then all of a sudden now we see Stamkos, O'Reilly, Evangelista. And Sean, what happens? Stamkos 1 goal, 2 assists.
Yep.
And he seemed rekindled. First production on the score sheet since January 23rd.
Yeah,
it's
been a while.
Right. Ryan O'Reilly, 2 goals, and Evangelista, 2 assists. So now I'm not going to say that, oh my goodness, this solves every offensive problem the team has, or that it's a 1-game wonder.
Correct.
But why not keep this up? And maybe if it starts not working, move up another rookie, say, Svechkov up for now Novak on that second line. Well, Bunting is still out with his appendicitis. So, there's so many options that this team can do to mix up the lines and incorporate these rookies with veterans.
Right.
And it worked.
If you put your young, skilled guys with skilled veteran players, I think you'll see production. And I think that's something that's just been lacking from this team for a while, is young guys getting stuck in that third, fourth line role and just not having a chance with, I don't want to use the word quality teammates, but your more offensively minded teammates that are there to score, as opposed to the guys that are there to start in the defensive zone and get the puck down the ice. Right. That's what I want to see continue. I don't want this to be a one and done. Evangelista's back down on the third or fourth line. I want him to stay up there. I want to see what he can do when he's given that opportunity.
And I say, Evangelista, he's a player where you have the chance as the Predators to allow him extra time, maybe to grow into a future, say, second line role. Let's push for, right? So maybe you push for him to be on this first line, second line until the end of the season, reevaluate how he does, come back in October, and maybe it's something we see the improvement even through the offseason, training camp, how he does these last 20 games, that we say Luke Evangelista will start the season on the second line.
I'm not opposed to it.
I guess we'll see.
I would like to see. Also, second line, a little bit different here, and it's funny that we're talking about it now, but Forsberg and Marchessault centered by
the former
Predator, current Pittsburgh Penguin Tommy Novak. They also got in on the scoring action. Novak with a goal, Marchessault with a goal, and of course Forsberg with an assist. I think it's interesting though, because the big complaint over the last few, I mean, you talked about how long it's been since Stamkos has been on the score sheet, but I mean, it's been an issue for the entire season with the guys that Trotz brought in to be the big name offensive firepower, not really living up to that idea, that goal. And so I think it's, why do you think that happens? And I did some thinking. I'll say that I did some thinking on this, and this is what I've come up with. Okay. You take these two guys, right? Stamkos and Marchessault. They're coming from long-term stints with their respective teams. Obviously Stamkos, lifetime with Tampa, right? Been there forever. Marchessault, long stay in Vegas. Time and time again, when guys like this, guys who have been in their respective roles for a long time, especially as a top producer, when you see them move to a new team, they struggle the first year. It's pretty common. They've both been incredibly hot at points during the season, but then they've also gone through incredible droughts, like Marchessault at the beginning of the year, Stamkos over the past month or so. It's not been pretty. But you're looking for consistency, right? You want to see them do this on a consistent basis, night after night, week after week, game after game. But consistency comes from knowing what's expected of you on a consistent basis, right? It comes from playing with the same guys on a consistent basis. Stamkos had been the guy in Tampa for a long time. Marchessault was the guy in Vegas for a long time. Now they're figuring out where they fit. And it may just mean that this season is what it's going to take to get them to where they can produce consistently next season.
And I don't think it's the first time we've said it. And it's so good to reiterate for Predators fans, but also fans around the league. I've heard a lot of concern, oh, Stamkos isn't the player he used to be. He's, quote, falling off. But at the end of the day, it's the first time in Stamkos' 17 season career that he is not playing with his guys like Nikita Kucherov, right? And it's never easy. These players are human, away from the rink as well. Spent the entirety of his adulthood in Tampa as well. So that is going to play a big role. But now, like you said, he's now getting more adjusted. It'll take the season, and next season, now he's coming a year under his belt, more familiarity. Right. And as for Marchessault, his production isn't a concern for me as the season has gone on. He has looked more like himself, the comfortable, confident, and adjusted to his role player, or at least adjusted now to where he was at the start of the season. And next season, I think, should look even better for Marchessault.
I think so too. And I think too, again, Trotz had the conversation with the guys and said, look, if you're not bought in, let me know and I can make a deal. And it seems like, we've got a few more hours, right? But
never say never.
Never say never, but it seems like those guys are committed to this team. And just like the Nashville Predators are committed to winning on the ice, Goldstone Financial Group is committed to helping you win with your retirement planning. From tax strategies to investment advice, they make sure you're prepared for whatever comes next. Don't leave your financial future up to chance. Trust the experts at Goldstone Financial Group. Check them out at goldstonefinancialgroup.com and set yourself up for success.
You are
Welcome back to Penalty Box Radio. This segment of Penalty Box Radio is brought to you by Green Ventures. Transform your outdoor space with Green Ventures Landscaping, where imagination meets craftsmanship. Their family-owned business brings your vision to life with expert patio design, sturdy retaining walls, stunning pool decks, and an efficient irrigation solutions. Their passionate team ensures every project is a masterpiece from inception to completion. Enjoy a seamless blend of beauty and functionality in your landscape. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com today for a free quote and watch your dreams grow into reality. Cultivate your perfect oasis with Green Ventures Landscaping. Beyond the Edge Sports Bar in East Nashville has just been voted best sports bar in the Scene Nashville Readers Poll. So if you're looking for the best spot to catch every Preds game, head over to Beyond the Edge with over 30 TVs and 25 beers on tap. You'll never miss a moment. It's the perfect place to relax with friends, grab some great food, and watch your favorite teams. Visit them at 112 South 11th Street in East Nashville or check them out online at beyondtheedge.net. Where every seat is the best seat in the house. Anthony,
What's up?
got it. Got your microphone on. Good. Okay. We've reached the part of the show where we make predictions. We used to do something last season where we did a draft. We started the season with awards. As the season wore on, it kind of seemed like there wasn't a ton to reward. So we started making predictions, and this is the fun part where you get to make a prediction about what will happen or what's most likely to happen over the next PBR week. Of course, the PBR week is Wednesday to Wednesday between shows. I'll respond. I'll make a prediction about what I think is most likely to happen during the next PBR week, and then you'll respond, and then our producer, Brandon, gets to vote. Now, I do want to start off by saying, before we get into it, last week, Sean, predicted that Gus Nyquist would be traded. And I also predicted that he would be traded, I said, maybe to a former team like the Detroit Red Wings. Brandon sided with me wisely.
Yes.
And
yes,
said,
I did.
yeah, he did. He decided that I had made the most likely prediction. And I was correct. Gus Nyquist was traded to a former team, to the Minnesota Wild. However, Ann predicted that the Preds, if they were able to come away from the game against Winnipeg feeling good, didn't say they had to win, but feeling good, that she thought they would go 2-2 over the next 4 games during the last PBR week. Interestingly enough, Ann also was correct. Her prediction came true.
I feel the pressure.
So there's a lot of
right
pressure.
Here. There
I
is
mean, so
pressure
far
on my end.
And both Ann, myself, and also Brandon batting 1,000. So we're going to make predictions. You get the pleasure of starting with your prediction. And I'll go ahead and let you make that prediction now.
All right. So 3 games here. We have Seattle tomorrow night.
Okay.
And then Chicago and San Jose.
Okay.
Let me just say, and this is not my prediction, but I think there may be a little bit of a feeling out phase here as we get this new lineup. Well, when I say new, adjusted lineup after what this roster will look like.
Right.
After
Considering
Friday.
the trades and things.
That's right. So that's why I think a loss to Seattle is fair, but then I do think we're going to come away here with the win against Chicago and hopefully a high-scoring game against San Jose,
Okay.
like the past 2, and we come up on top. So I'm going to say 2 wins, 1 loss in the next PBR week.
So 2-1.
2-1.
And you've also said who they're going to win against and who they're going to lose against.
Bold prediction, right?
That's a bold prediction. See, Ann didn't get that in depth, and so I feel like you're committing here.
Well, she had her win, you had your win.
True.
So this competition is not fair to begin with.
Okay.
Because I am not a very good predictor when it comes to the Pred season. Although I did say that I thought Shen was going to go and Novak. So that's why I'm going to say 2 wins, 1 loss, specifically to Chicago and San Jose, and the loss to Seattle.
The loss. Okay, so my response to that, I think those are also teams that are adjusting to new changes and things like that. And so I don't know that I feel very confident in any prediction about how they're going to do this week. I mean, that it's a prediction you can make. I respect your right to make that prediction, but
It's bold.
it's bold, and that's what we're going to say is it's bold. Anyway, that being said, let me get to my prediction, and then I think I need to do a little clearing up before we get to the vote. But my prediction, and I want to point out, I made this prediction before this trade happened, right before the show, so this still holds true. Okay, I predict that before our next show, there will be a disappointing trade before the deadline. And
Hold your breath.
okay, when I say disappointing, that doesn't mean there won't be an exciting one, right? But I'm saying there's going to be. I don't think this is a very bold prediction.
And when you say disappointing trade, do you mean disappointing that a player gets traded that we don't want to see go? Or
No, I just mean like it's nothing that's going to get your blood flowing.
okay, that makes more sense.
You'll see Pred's trade and you'll go, oh, what happened? And then you'll see it and you'll go, oh, okay, whatever. Or like, what is this?
The story of the season is when I get excited because I see the trade thing,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking it's a new exciting story to write about or
Right,
a
yeah.
headline. Turns out that the return is future considerations.
Future considerations. They'll just say it's not going to be Kevin Weeks forehead worthy. How's that sound?
We love Kevin. He's great.
It's a good time whenever we see him. But again, we didn't see a Kevin Weeks forehead reveal today with this trade. So, what do you think, Anthony, on that one?
Well, I think these disappointing trades are going to add up into, the future, that some of these disappointing, it's going to form maybe your third, your fourth line, right? That we look at, oh, that trade wasn't special. But then
Right.
over time, right, it gets into your depth of the team. That's what I have.
And I think, that's okay. That's okay. And so now Brandon, of course, faced with the difficult task of choosing whose prediction he thinks is most likely to come true while he's considering his options. I do want to quit campaigning for vote. What you guys, whoever's sitting in that chair is just corrupt. They're like, oh, vote for me. I'll bring you food and snacks.
I was actually pointing for your prediction.
Oh, I don't know. I think he needs to pick yours. It's so bold. That's a bold prediction. I want to point out we had special guest on momentarily earlier. He referenced getting kicked out of a game. It was a situation. You have to understand, in a regular NHL hockey game, they don't have this rule. But if you get 4 penalties in one game, you're just out for the rest of the game and the next game. That's what happened. It wasn't just a bunch of terrible things or one giant blow up. It was, just minor things happening over the course of the game. Nothing crazy, nothing noteworthy or newsworthy. But with just to clear the air on this poor young man who is so brave to come on the air today. But Brandon, who do you think? Who are you going to choose?
Before I make my decision,
Okay.
does anybody want to add anything to persuade?
Whoa,
Possibly lean, just in case.
It sounds like
Not taking
Here's
bribes
what
or
I
anything.
have. Here's what I have.
oh no.
Okay.
Against San Jose,
Oh,
2 wins so far. I'm not sure if they've played again this season, but the 2 most recent games against San Jose was a 7-5 and 6-5 win,
okay.
and Nashville's most recent loss against Seattle was just 1 second. You give him your persuasion, and I will find my research.
Let's see. Not only will you be underwhelmed, but you'll be disappointed in the trade.
Much like this season. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay. Anthony's got
I have my
done his research.
persuasion. October 15th, Seattle Kraken 7, Nashville Predators 3. November 20th, Seattle Kraken 3, Nashville Predators 0. There's my persuasion.
Interesting.
Okay.
Well, I think this week I'm going to have to go with
Drum roll.
little drum roll. Sean.
Oh boy. See,
Sean,
you gotta
back-to-back weeks.
go with the proven winner.
Go with the theme.
Brandon,
of
I
the
like-
season.
I would too.
I like where your head's at. I like the way you're thinking. I appreciate all the love and attention here. But that you made a good choice, mainly because Anthony's predictions very bold and very specific.
It was very bold. You kept adding on to it, and it kept pushing me away. You was like,
Oh,
2-1. Like, okay, I'm fine with that. But then you're like, no, win against Chicago,
Oh boy.
win against Seattle.
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The more in depth you went,
So I should have kept it just baseline and
Kept it-
said,
kept it simple.
make your prediction. Okay.
Kept it
Well,
simple.
now
Yeah.
I know for
Sim-
next
simple and
time,
easy.
right?
We'll see what happens on the next show. And at least for this show, thanks for listening to Penalty Box Radio live on 102.5 The Game, presented by Goldstone Financial Group. If you want smart investing with a company with a proven track record of fiduciary responsibility, look no further than Goldstone Financial Group. Also, thanks to Stars and Strikes of Smyrna and Beyond the Edge East Nashville and Green Ventures Landscaping. Anthony, thank you for joining me this week, and we'll see you again next week.
Always a pleasure.